In Workshop 1, we're going to be building an amortization schedule. This is a useful skill if you're going to be taking out a loan later on. You can see, with your APR mortgage rate, how long it's going to take to pay it back with certain amount of payments you do. So it's a pretty useful skill. To get started with this, we're going to set up our Excel worksheet. And as a general rule, I'll show you how we're going to format our workshops for the majority of this class. The first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to select this row right here. There's two ways you can do that. You can either click right here on the A. You can do that on any column and it'll select that whole column. Another way you can do that is when you're on a cell, if you press Control and then hold space, it'll select that row as well. Once we've done that, we're going to go over here to Format in the right, and you're going to go to Column Width, and we're going to change the width to 1.5 for column A, which will be where we're going to be numbering our different questions. Secondly, we're going to want to turn off our grid lines. In case you're unaware of this, some of the shortcuts you can do in Excel is by clicking Alt. Do you see there becomes like letters and numbers up in here, and if you select H, it'll go to the home ribbon. So if I select H, it goes into this tab right here, and then it gives me all these different keys I can punch in to do different things. For instance, if I press FS, it'll go into the text size, and you can make adjustments that way. That's just one tool that you'll start to use a lot in Excel, especially when you get into more advanced techniques. But anyways, what we're going to want to do is we're going to go to View, and we want to turn off our grid lines. This is just going to make our worksheet look a little cleaner and make it easier for to see everything. This is kind of just industry practice. What they'll do when you're working in a real job is usually they want the grid lines turned off. So at the very top here in cell B1, we're going to title this Workshop 1, and then right below it we're going to do created by your name. And then what we're going to want to do after that is in cell B4, we're going to want to freeze our panes. What this will do, and I'll show you in a second. Again, to find freeze pane, you're going to go into View, Freeze Panes, and click that. And what that'll do is, if I were to scroll down, it'll keep this top portion always on the screen. And likewise, in our row side on the left side of this, when we scroll to the right, it'll keep our number there. It's just easier to see what questions you are on this way. So we're going to be starting out with question number 1. To do question number 1, we are first, it looks like we are finding out what the monthly mortgage payment in dollars has to be to pay off this 30-year $100,000 mortgage. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to write in all our given information. So for this question, we have N, which will be our maturity, and because this is a monthly mortgage, we're going to want to have our N in months, so that in a 30-year cycle, there'll be 360 months, so N will be 360. We're also going to want our mortgage rate. We'll just put R, which is 8.125%, and again we need to divide that by 12 because it's in a yearly rate right now. And lastly, we're going to have our face value. In this case, it's a $100,000 loan. With our given information on our spreadsheet now, we can use the annuity formula to figure out what our monthly mortgage payment is going to be. So first we're going to title a cell payment to label where our answer is, and we're going to use the equation future value times, and I can't stress enough that in Excel it's very important that you have your parentheses correct. It's very easy to make a mistake just because you're missing a parentheses and it's multiplying, numbers wherein it shouldn't be. So be very careful about that. So anyways, we're going to have our future value times our mortgage rate, which is in cell C5, times 1 plus our mortgage rate again, raised to n periods, divided by one plus the mortgage rate raised to n minus 1. And make sure we have our parentheses all right. We'll need one more here. One more over here. And we see that our payment, and we're just going to round this off to 2 digits, is going to be around $742.50. In question 2, we're going to generate a table similar to Exhibit 5 in Chapter 3. We're going to have 6 columns in this table, so we'll have month, beginning balance, mortgage payment, interest payment, principal payment, and ending balance. So we're going to, first things first, we're going to add those elements to our spreadsheet. The first part we have is month. We have beginning balance, mortgage payment, interest payment, principal payment, and ending balance. And we want all these cells to be able to show up, so one way we can do this is wrap the text. If you go up here, and I'll expand it, right here in our home ribbon we'll see there's a wrap text button, so we'll just click that and we'll just spread this out a bit, make sure all the words are showing up. Looks about right. Since this is our column headers, we're going to bold it as well. A quick way to select a row or column is when you're on the first cell in that row, you can press Control Shift, holding those down, and you press the right arrow, and it'll select that entire column, or row I should say. And then we're going to make it bold, and again just Control B. Fix that out a bit. And our months, we're going to have 1 all the way to 360. Now you don't have to type in all those numbers straight to 360. If you type in like the first 2 or 3 numbers in a series and then select them, when you go in the bottom right corner of that selected area, you'll see how the mouse turns into like a black crosshair. When it's at that point, you can click it and drag down, and it'll recognize the pattern you're doing, trying to do. So you can just drag that down, and you see how it's telling you what number you're currently on. So we're a little bit past it, and we want to drag it down so it's all the way at 360. Perfect. So our beginning balance, we're going to have $100,000. Our mortgage payment is going to be $742. So the best way to do this is just lock it to the, reference the answer we got in question number 1. You'll need to lock this cell so that when you drag down, it doesn't move with it. So once you click the cell C7, if you click F4, you'll see that there's a $sign in between both the letter and the number. What this will do, it'll keep it on the cell as you drag it down. For instance, if I drag it down here and I go into this cell, it's still selected on it. To calculate our interest payment, it's just going to be our mortgage rate times our beginning balance. So we're going to go up here to our mortgage rate, and again we'll need to lock this cell, so we'll click F4, and we're going to multiply it by our beginning balance over here. So our principal payment is just going to be equal to our mortgage payment minus our interest payment, and our ending balance on our principal payment is just going to be the beginning balance minus principal payment. So when you go into the next row, when you have the new beginning balance, it's going to be the ending balance from the prior period. Drag that down. And now that we have this, we can select these 5 cells, it looks like. We're going to go into the bottom right corner here. Once it turns into the black crosshair, we can double click and it'll fill out the rest of our table for us. And then to check, we're going to go to the bottom and make sure that the ending balance is 0, which it is. So we know that we've done our table correctly. Once we're done making our table, we're going to add borders to it to make it look nicer. One way you can do this is you're going to want to select the entire table. There's multiple ways you can do this. One shortcut you can do is if you press Control A, it'll select all that data you have. Another way you can do this is you can do, once you're in the top left cell of your table, you press Control Shift and you go right, it'll select all those cells to the right of it. And then if you go down, it'll select the cells down as well. Once we're there, we can add our borders. Again, the borders can be seen up in our home ribbon. So it's this little symbol right here, and you're going to want to do all borders. Again, I'll show you another shortcut to do it. If you select the entire you can press Alt H B and press A, and it'll put all borders around there. And we're going to want to do that for the same, do the same for question number 1. So we're just going to make borders around our given information. Now that we've checked with our table and verified that the last row of the column or the table is equal to 0, we can now make a graph of our mortgage payment, our interest and principal against month for question number 4. So we're going to go down here. This is question number 4, and we're going to want to insert a graph. To do this, first things first, we're going to just want to select all the columns that we want graphed. So we want month, and Control Shift down is how you select that. Now to select the other ones, we have mortgage payment, interest payment, and principal payment. If you hold down the Control key while you're selecting cells, it will not forget the cells that you selected earlier. So we're holding Control as we're doing this. We press Control Shift and down. Once we have our data that we want graph selected, we'll go into our ribbons up here. We'll hit the Insert ribbon, and we're going to want to insert a chart, and you're going to do Scatter. The symbol just kind of shows a lot of dots, and that's the scatter one. And you're going to want to do Scatter with smooth lines. And we'll see that we have a nice graph here with our mortgage payment, our interest payment, and our principal payment. So we'll move that to where our question 4 is. Come up for a name for your chart. I'll just title mine Chart 1 for now. You guys can come up with something more creative. And then next part of the question asks you to analyze the graph. So you're going to want to insert a text box. So you just draw a text box here, and you can type your analysis of the graph in here.